Welcome to Spilling the Tea with Taylor team of House2Home Realtors.
I'm Shannon.
And I'm Brittany.
And we're here to discuss different topics with you about buying, selling, and living in your dream home.
Today's topic is value. So you might hear different things mentioned when it comes to value, and you wonder, what do they mean? You have the CMA, the PVA, the appraiser, fair market value, list price. But what does it all mean? We're going to discuss that today.
The first thing we're going to talk about is the CMA. CMA is comparative market analysis. This means taking a subject property or the property that you're interested in and comparing it to properties that have recently sold in the neighborhood around it. And we look for things that are similar. This comparative analysis is from a licensee. We look at things that are similar with the houses. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, the size of the kitchen, things like that. Does it have a garage? Does it have a basement? And we look at that compared to subject properties other properties in the neighborhood that have recently sold, and do a comparative price to get you around where you think you should list the property.
Next is appraisals. So with an appraisal, it's set up by a lender. The lender has to determine if they're able to finance you for a certain amount. The house has to appraise for that amount. So you might have they use an index. So it's similar to a CMA where they're trying to figure out the value based on similar properties that are around it, but they have an index. They can say having an extra bedroom or two is worth this amount of money, and so they're going to give it that exact amount. And so appraisals are a little more exact. So it also that you don't get to choose who the appraiser is. The lender actually sets that up, but they don't get to choose either. It's picked at random because there's some fraud that could happen if a house appraises for something that it actually doesn't have that value. So a buyer just pays for an appraisal and waits for it to come back to see how much the house is worth.
Then you have the PVA. That's property valuation. That comes from the county that you live in. They'll tell you around about how much your property is worth, depending on the land that it's on, similar properties around it, what's going on in the neighborhood with similar prices, and they take into account market and things like that.
Next, you have fair market value. So what would the house go for on the market? If it were to be listed, what's reasonable for someone to pay, what's reasonable for someone to ask for it, that's the fair market value. It may not be what you would assume to be the value, because value also has some inherent, what is it worth to you? Is it by the beach? And a lot of people want to live by the beach. Is it in a flood zone and people feel they don't want to pay for the flood insurance? Whatever it is, the fair market value is what would it sell for on a fair market.
The next price is the list price. This is what the seller decides to list their property as when it goes to the MLS. This is a price that your real estate licensee can help you to come up with, but we don't set those prices. That is according to what the person who is actually selling, or persons who are selling the house, actually want to sell their property for. What value do they have in it? What they think it's worth, with all the different things, the tools that we give them, like the comparative market analysis or the PVA or things like that. They can use that information to set their list price.
And then they have to take into consideration things like, is it the house they grew up in and it's worth more to them? Is there sentimental value? There are different things that are considered when going into the list price. So as agents, we give you market research. We go and we look and we get together all of that information and help you to decide what the value is, because value really comes down to individuals and what's value to them, except for when, once again, you have the appraisal. So what else do you consider with value? What else would you like us to discuss, or do you know of another type of value that we didn't discuss here? Add it in the comments. As always, like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.